Before you read or listen to this, make sure you're alone. If you are in a room, close the door. If you're by a window, look outside and make sure no one is there. The only way others should know about this story is by reading it or listening to it themselves. Do not repeat this out loud to anyone. He will hear you. But if you are able to read it to yourself or record yourself right now, these are the only two exceptions. I know about it. Once you think you're alone, look at the screen and try not to take your eyes off of it until you finish reading or listen to a recording. He will know if you look away. It all started on Sunday, November 4th, 2012. I'm in my senior year of high school and I had a wonderful girlfriend. We were at my house motoring about school the next day, being terribly bored, so she came over and I could help her with the project that she had to have it due to the next day. I had hoped we would be able to fool around a bit, but as she needed this A or would fail the marking period, we finished around 8 o'clock and she didn't need to leave till 10. So we had 2 hours to each other, with the only person who was at home was my 8-year-old sister, whom I had to babysit. My parents were at home dinner meeting until 10, so I knew them too well. They would come home around midnight, but I would play it safe because I wouldn't allow my girlfriend past 8. They were afraid I would get her pregnant or something. We then went on the internet because there was nothing else to do. She wasn't in the mood to fool around and I couldn't stand another homework assignment. The internet was the only means of escaping these dull hours. We had watched videos on YouTube for a while. While looking up the newest popular videos that we ended up watching were some creepypastas. We both had been watching creepypastas before we were dating, so we knew what to expect, and we had a hard time watching as they were having a hard time becoming truly scared of them as we used to. We kept trying to find some ways to scare us, but the videos we watched are not as scary as we hoped for. By now it was around almost 9:30, and we were upset that some of the videos we watched creeped us out. We were about to give up on searching until I saw a usual thumb tag. It had the usual man standing with his head looking down, his hair covering his face. What was strange about the thumbnail was that there was no limit and no offer that read to tell the man who looked down. We both agreed that this would be the final video, and if it didn't creep us out, we would give up. I moved on the mouse to click on the video, and at the moment I pressed it, the video went to a full screen, and the man I saw in the thumb tag was standing there. I moved my mouse around the loading bar, but there wasn't there. I pressed on the escape on the keyboard to get out of full screen, but the screen didn't move. For a second, I thought the computer was frozen, but in the video, the man was standing there what seemed to be in front of the lawn of the house I've never seen before, and the tree next to him was the moving wind. My girlfriend had no idea what was going on, but I never took my eyes away from the screen because I felt that something I had to see. And if I were to make my eyes look away for any moment, I would miss something. I don't know how long my girlfriend and I stared at the man, waiting for something, but it felt like a couple of minutes. But while I was staring at this, I felt like something was wrong. Something was changing me. I actually felt scared, but I don't know how my girlfriend felt. But I just didn't have time to think about that, until I felt something grab my shoulder till the tight of my nails pierced my skin. I turned around to see the face of my father. He opened his mouth to say something, but was interrupted by my girlfriend's ear-shattering scream. I whirled back to almost scream myself. Then the man who looked up must have been a lot closer to the screen, because all I could see was his face staring at me. The background was now completely white, and the hair was out of the way to show his disfigured face. His nose was torn on the left nostril, and allowing people to look inside the hole into his head. His mouth was opening larger than any human could bear. Part of his cheek was missing with a hole about the size of a large fist. He had no tongue or top row of teeth, only the bottom row of dark, chipped teeth that were pure black. But while the part of his face would never leave my eyes, they were half red and half white. The half white parts were red veins protruding out of them, while the red sides had veins protruding. There was no sound. It was just him staring through the screen for a couple of seconds before my computer shut itself off. I looked at the clock and it was now 12:30. This wasn't possible, I was thinking. It felt like 5 minutes. I looked back at my father, who I saw and seemed a little shocked himself. He pulled himself together and told my girlfriend to leave, and she left without saying goodbye. My father then gave me a talk about disobeying and other crap, but it was most of the time I wasn't listening. I was too busy thinking about the man. He seemed to have moved at least a block away, but which I didn't understand how that could happen. There was also the fact that we'd been starting watching it around 9:30 and it had been interrupted at 12:30. We had been watching the man for 3 hours straight without looking away or blinking. Once my dad was finished, I had to sleep. I wanted to talk to my girlfriend about the video and what happened. I woke up the next morning like normal and got out of bed and took a shower and got dressed. I looked out my window for a brief second and noticed something out of the ordinary. It looked like a black smudge on my lawn. Then I looked again and it was gone. I shook it out of my mind, thinking it might have been a stray cat or raccoon. I walked into the kitchen, grabbed my lunch, and then started walking out the door to wait for my bus. At the corner of my eye, I saw something move. I turned quickly and ended up staring out my kitchen window. I walked slowly towards outside, but when I reached to the window and looked around my lawn slowly, taking as much detail as I could to see if there was any change, but there wasn't anything there. I was starting to get scared until I heard about the school bus stop outside. I ran for the door and raced out to the bus. Once I reached it, I almost coiled with the door on the bus, and the driver opened the door, and of course I walked into the shuttle. I sat down quickly and stared at my seat's window. Everything seems normal around my lawn. As I was running towards the bus, I had a feeling that I was being chased. I felt that I was literally running for my life. I wanted to stop thinking about what was happening as the bus started moving. I looked away from my window and listened to the music on my iPod. That's when I looked away from the window. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move again. I looked back at this house just in time to see a man standing on his own lawn before the bus moved him out of my vision. His hair had covered his face and he looked down. I didn't know what to do. Should I call the police? No, the man didn't do anything. Not yet. He was just scaring me, but how did he find me? Did I know him? I needed to talk to my girlfriend about this. I arrived at my school and waited till period 2 to talk to her. It was our only study hall together. Once period 2 arrived, she didn't show up and I asked her friends where she was and they said they didn't know. I assumed that she was sick and I would visit her after school. Her house wasn't a far walk from our school, that this wasn't like her. Her project was due today and if she was sick she would have texted me or her friends. The moment that the last school bell rang, I sprinted to her house, knocked on her door, but there was no response. I slammed on the door loud enough for the neighbors to hear me. Still no response. Even if she wasn't home, my girlfriend's mom's a stay-at-home mom who would always comes home after school. I tried the doorknob and surprisingly the door was unlocked. I opened the door slowly and yelled in to see if anyone was home, but there was no response. I yelled that I was coming in. I didn't expect a response, and I didn't receive one. I walked into the darkness and all the lights were off. I felt as if the walls in the nearest light switch had turned on. The room was illuminated with a couple of seconds before the light bulbs burst. I'm still not sure about what I saw in those short seconds, but I thought there was a quick glimpse of a woman in the doorway of the kitchen. I found some curtains covering a window and opened them. The window was now filled with sunlight. I looked towards the kitchen doorway and it was empty. I didn't go in the kitchen. I didn't feel like I needed to yet. I went upstairs to my girlfriend's room instead, opened the door to her room and stopped. What I hit was unexplainable. Horrible stench. My eyes burned. Once my eyes were able to dilate what I saw her and him, my girlfriend was on the floor, looking directly at the man. Almost every inch of her body was bloodied. I just stood there horrified of what I was witnessing. It seemed like the entirety of the staring man and my girlfriend before my girlfriend finally spoke. All she was able to say this to me was, "I'm sorry." Then she turned to look at the man and then stared at me and in her eyes. Oh dear God, her eyes. They were crying they were down to the middle. But of course I had one time to move my hand to grab her before the man, monster, fell on her. He started to rip her off and devour her like a wild animal. All I could only stand there and watch. Her heart-wrenching scream must have filled the entire neighbor's ears. I just watched in horror. I turned to run, but at the moment I looked away, I got pounced on. The monster slammed me into the ground and started to rip my clothes up, to rip my shirt off. Each time the fingers ripped, more I was becoming more bloodied and shoved into this horribly disfigured mouth. I shoved him away. I just screamed. My screams were almost just as loud as my girlfriend's. I don't know how, but I was able to move myself and the monster towards the stairs. We toppled down and I felt my arm break. The sound of cracking bone filled the house. The monster fell off of me and I was able to get up to run towards the front door. The pain on my back and my arm was unbearable. I sprinted out of the house of the door, tripped on the steps, and I felt my face collided into the concrete. The skin was the only thing of my house was completely bloodied. I could only till see one eye that was covering the other, and it was standing on the doorway looking at me. I was unable to move, and I was in so much pain that I wanted to die. I was sure that monster was going to kill me, but of course, that didn't really happen because I would not be writing this. He just looked at me for a couple seconds before he said three unforgettable words. Don't look down. Then I black out. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, and that's what my nurse told me. I was in horrible pain, but the medicine helped ease it a little. I never saw my back since then, but I'm sure the monster must have tore skin off until there was nothing but flesh, but the police came and asked me questions about what happened. I tried to tell them everything, but as I tried to continue the story, it seemed that it would be more unbelievable. They thought I was crazy, but they stopped and searched my girlfriend's killers days later for unreliable evidence. But one day they stopped their search as the day I had gotten the news. My father had gone off-road and crashed into a forest. When the police found his car, my father was not inside of it. His body had not been found to this day, and I'm sure the man had gotten him. There was no one with my father, so the man probably devoured anything. I left the hospital months later, an almost unrecognizable face. I had a crooked back, a broken mind, and I just went home to only find my mother. She had taken her own life. I didn't bother to call the police as I went straight to my computer to find that video. After backtracking from my history, I found the video before the man who looked down video, but it wasn't there. The video had changed my life, was gone. I gave up shortly after looking through the other videos. I closed the web browser and started writing this. Halfway through writing this, I got an email. It was a video link. I knew it was from the man. I forced myself to click on the link, and there he was, standing in front of another house. But this house was familiar, because it was my house. He is behind me and I can hear soft wheezing. I can smell his horrible, death-soaked breath. I can feel his eyes staring at me. He isn't looking down. He is looking at me. He is the victims looks for his victims on the internet. I am writing this as a full warning to everyone. Don't look down or don't look for me. Once you get this story somewhere on the internet, I will turn around and just look down. My only regret is leaving my little sister alone. Please forgive me, Julie. And that, my little pretties, was The Man Who Looked Down, a creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story? I obviously really say that this pasta is actually a pretty good creepypasta for what it is. It actually provided a really good detail with this pasta. Now, this one, I remember Creepypasta narrated this about, well, I think a couple years ago, actually. And I obviously have to say that, I know Creepypasta, kind of narrated, this story twice. One was 8 years ago, and the other one was like 3 years ago, so it wasn't too bad long. And to be honest, I know Mr. Creepypasta narrated this one, and a good friend of mine named the guy Creepy actually narrated this, and I know a lot of people have sat there and narrated this story. Like a couple individuals have sat there and narrated this story, and I wasn't really sure about where if this story was any good or not. So back in 2019, that 2019 was the year I narrated this. So when 2019 was going on, I decided to sit there and have a look at it because I needed to see if this story was any good. So I decided to go ahead and narrated this, and to be honest, I actually found this pasta to be enjoyable. a pretty good pasta, actually. I really do like that this creepypasta was pretty well made in detail. It was freaky, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was a very messed up story, but it still provided pretty good detail in this creepypasta. I definitely have to say that this story was actually really well made in detail, really good. I obviously really found this story to be enjoyable. Like, I can't understand why creepypastas can't be just as good as, well, I guess, why can't, creepypastas be just as good as, well, the other stories? Like, why creepypastas can't be, that nowadays? Like, I'm not really sure, to be completely honest, why creepypastas usually, don't go ahead and put time and effort. Like, this story actually has a lot of time and effort into it. It's really believable, yes. Like, this story actually was pretty messed up, I'm not gonna lie. Like, seeing this guy, seeing his girlfriend getting, ripped into pieces by, well, a sick person or something like that, or even, well, this man or whoever. I obviously really have to say that the pasta actually was pretty good for what it is. It's still messed up, yes, but it's still a pretty good pasta. So I definitely have to say that it was a pretty well made story for what it is. I definitely really do enjoy how the pasta went out. It actually was believable. It's really messed up. I'm not gonna lie. It was like really messed up, but it's still a pretty good story for what it is. I actually really remembered seeing this story, on, well, I guess on here. Like, I actually really found this story to be rather enjoyable, really well made in detail. It's flat out amazing. Really gotta say, it's a pretty good pasta, I'm not gonna lie. So, I guess with that being the case, and with that being said, the grammar of this story is really good. I like the grammar. The grammar actually was pretty well done. Along with the sentence structuring, the storyline, basically everything about it was just flat out amazing. Really well done. And it's just well made in detail. Like, I really like how this story went out. It actually provided pretty good detail. It actually, was believable. And I really gotta say, oh my god, I was pretty surprised when I saw this story. But if I had to say one thing I wasn't really, a fan of, it would have to be the mom. Basically, basically what happened is, the mom ends up, well, you could probably already guessed, has already, well, taken her own life. Like, why would the mom sit there and take her own life? Like, I know she could probably maybe be depressed at the fact that, when the protagonist is, well, dad ends up getting killed or something, and, she's depressed over that. But there needs to be a logical reason as to why the mom decided to take her own life like this. Like, there's absolutely no reason why that should be included there unless it was properly explained. Like, I don't know. This is probably just me, but I think the fact that, the mom ended up, taking her own life could have been explained a little better. Maybe it could be explained a little better as to why she did it, because then that way we get, like, maybe just a better explanation on it. But I understand that this is an old story. It was probably written sometime in, I guess you could say, well, it might have been written maybe in 2014. Like, this story says it was written in 2000. Well, it might have been written maybe in 2013 or 2014. I'm not really sure. It's a pretty good pasta. I'm not gonna lie. It was a good pasta. It's not terrible or anything like that. It actually was pretty scary and stuff. It actually, oh my goodness, like, it was actually a pretty good pasta. Like, it actually had provided a lot of good detailing and time and effort. I actually really found this one to be quite fun. It's a pretty good story, actually, and I really have to say I really do enjoyed it a lot. It actually provided a lot of good, well, detailing with the story. So, I guess I could kind of explain, another thing on, well, why this story is, there, but I definitely have to say, now I kind of know I was repeating myself a little bit earlier, but since I don't have anything much to say about it, I definitely, covered most of it, so I'm gonna kind of end the video, well, review, but I'm gonna basically say this now. I don't know who the original author is, so I'm just gonna leave it as anonymous for now on. But if I ever find out who the original author is, I'll be sure to make sure to give him or her proper credit. And anyways, with that being the case, so with that being said, yeah, I'm gonna say this right now. This is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these, well, creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 10 out of 10. It was really good, well made, detail, very well made. It was awesome. The grammar was pretty well done. It was messed up, yes, but it's actually provided a pretty good, concept within this pasta itself. It was awesome. I really have to say, to the author of this story, I really found this story to be enjoyable. I really hope you did make pretty good pastas just like this one. So, anyways, I think that's all I have to wrap up right now. And with that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, will you have done person to help make this story a lot better? Leaving out what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.